Welcome back to the farm, everyone. It's finally March, and although it doesn't feel that inviting outside this morning, I'm starting to get that itch, like spring is around the corner. Don't worry, everyone, it's not a legitimate physical itch. I do shower at least once a week to avoid those from rising and flaring up. This is more something you feel in your heart. When it hits March on the calendar, you know, or at least you got your fingers crossed, that equipment will be running in our fields nearby within the next 4 weeks. That means it's time to stop being lazy and start actually servicing our engines, our air filters, whatever's on the list, so we can hook up and race when the time comes. If I translated my service records from last year correctly, we have 5 pieces of equipment that need looked over this spring. The sprayer, the 3 4-wheel drive tractors, and then the front wheel assist, the aTrippyFarmer. That's what I pull the big bean planter with. The aTrippyFarmer only got like 70 engine hours on it, and we had this discussion last year whether or not you change it yearly or you wait. Yes, if you want to get the moisture out of the powertrain, you would change the oil. Also spending money you don't need to. So we may just wait and see on that one. I really just want to get the sprayer, the tillage tractors, and the bean planters ready. In the world that I'm imagining, the corn planter should be the last planter to start running, and that's what the aTrippyFarmer pulls. So we're not in huge hurry on that at the beginning of March. If it dries up a little bit, we may plant some beans. So we need that tractor and this sprayer ready, definitely. I'm never as efficient as I'd like. I think I'll do these 2 first. So I'm gonna start this sprayer, then start the tractor, and then I'll move the sprayer over to the shed, and then follow with the tractor. Hours I put on this. Had 1,200 and change on the filter, 1,400 on the machine, so I ran about 180 hours on this last season. That tractor was similar, about 130 hours on the filter, and that one's probably got closer to 175 to 200, and then that one's probably a little lower, probably in that low 100-hour range. The highest hour tractor, I would say, year over year is the aTrippyFarmer, because between pulling the bean planter and the grain cart, you get a lot of hours, especially on the grain cart. My plan for the sprayer is oil filter, air filter, and then the 2 hydraulic filters. That's it. Everything else was changed last year, including the fuel filter. I don't see a need to change it yearly unless you have really bad fuel. Our fuel seems to be fairly high quality, and unless I feel power issues that are unexplainable, I'm not going to spend the money to replace the fuel filter yearly. There's one of the things Colton at Menke Ag Repair did. He replaced the seal or the mounting bracket, I can't even remember what, on this air compressor here. You see the fresh grease? One of those jobs that I couldn't have done myself, and he did it, so should be in good shape. Size is that? 25 maybe? It's got to be bigger than 25. We'll start with 27. Oh, perfect. I think it holds less than 10 gallons.
There's a bucket right here. You got a hose to run down there?
No. The wind's pretty calm here. It's better than the red flag warning the other day. There's a chicken here helping us. They're kind of nosy, the little creatures. While this finishes trickling out a little bit, Chris and I are going to go get the other tractor I have running, and we may drain 2 at once. My dad never appreciates that type of work. He likes to do 1 at a time. The longest part of this process is usually just letting it drip empty, so we'll let it drip empty while we get the other one. perfect timing. This one is done draining just as this one shows up. So I'm gonna pull the plug in this one and then put the plug back in that one. Chris, we get a couple empty buckets. Chris and I have both of these drained, and we are ready for the next step of the process, filling them up, except we need to change the oil filters, and of course somehow the filter wrench we use has gone on a mysterious journey away from here. Dad has it on his pickup truck for reasons unknown. We gotta wait on him to get back with the wrench so we can change the filters, and then we can go ahead and add oil. This one I'm also changing the hydraulic filters in, so this has got 3 filters to change, that's just got 1. As all millennials would do, because there was a shortage of tools, I went on Amazon and immediately ordered a new gear wrench, filter wrench to use on a 1/2-inch drive ratchet. Those are the best ones, the cloth ones that you hook up to a ratchet. They fit almost every size of filter and they get into a lot of nice spaces. Speaking of tools, we're like hillbilly rich here. Look at that, 3 new Milwaukee grease guns. That's like the highest status of blue collar life you can have. 3 new Milwaukee M18 grease guns. Living the dream out here. Don't make any money farming, but we do have all these extra grease guns that we did not buy. They were either giveaways or referral bonuses or a warranty for a bad one I had. That's okay. Nothing quite brings me joy like having a bunch of new Milwaukee tools, especially when you didn't pay for any of them. Although I did pay for one of them because it was one that was 4 years old and it went bad, and I sent it back to Milwaukee through their online repair service and they sent me a new one. That's quite the warranty. John Deere wouldn't even do that. Heck, the minute these things are a day out of factory warranty, they'll tell you to eat crap, I guess is the best way I can say it. There's no appropriate way to say what John Deere tells you to do once your equipment's out of warranty, other than foot the bill.
Where's that He brought it.
It's probably the one from here.
Yeah. Get out of here. Go on. So we go back to the house.
These are the only ones. There's 2 chickens that lay in this shed for some reason. And the only reason I know that is because sometimes I'll pick up the eggs and then I'll come the next day and there'll be 2 eggs in here. So I bet these 2 chickens are laying eggs in the shed, and that's also why they're so nosy.
They don't like your shed.
I guess.
Well, let's run these tractors and fried chicken.
That's alright, they're expendable. We finished the 9460R. Dad showed up, took it back to the shed. He's going to bring the 8R370. We'll work on that next. Got to still change the hydraulic oil filters in the Hagee. And then I completely forgot about my planetary drive hubs here. I got to change the oil in them. Not really that hard to do, but I need oil in the engine to start it, to roll it to the level so I can shut it off and then drop the oil out of it and add new ones. That's just a preventative measure. These hubs, final drives, whatever they're called, are fairly expensive to replace, so you want to kind of keep them oiled, the fresh oil every year, and the oil is also not very cheap.
Will that postal driver work?
There's something in it.
I want to see how much was in it. That's why I was lifting it.
We put 30 gallons in it.
Why 30?
I don't know, because it took forever. Oil is draining on the 8R370 back at the sprayer. I try to change the hydraulic oil filters. I don't know if this is going to run out, if there's oil in the reservoir or not. If it does, I'm not going to show you because I don't want the EPA showing up. I switched to these gloves because they may.
Just go. You ready?
No, not really.
Just drop it in the bucket.
It's getting slippery. Oh, son of a gun.
Let's see where.
I don't even know if I'm threaded on it right. There's got to be a better way to do that. The change of gloves was a good idea.
Here.
This was the small filter.
Yeah.
There's a bigger one that's harder to get to.
Can
Let's
you
put the filter wrench on it.
Put the rag on it and turn it?
I didn't know hydraulic oil was that color.
Yeah, I didn't either. That's what I was wondering.
It smells like cooking oil.
Yeah, I can smell it.
Really not supposed to put the filter wrench on them,
I know.
but I might just to be safe. I don't think the oil marker is going to stick to that now. Next time, have Colton do that while he's here working on the Eggy. He's probably done one of those before.
That,
At least we didn't get too messy.
you end up like me, your coat's all spotty.
Go ahead and put it up there.
I'm not going to claim that this was a disaster. The large amount of hydraulic oil dripping down the new filter does argue otherwise. Thankfully, Dad showed up just in the nick of time. He has a tendency to do that because I needed a second set of hands to seat the O-ring. This is one where the O-ring is internal on the female side of the filter on the sprayer, yet it sits on the external lip of the male side of the filter. So you really need two hands and someone with some technical ability. Dad mostly helped get it on there, then he had enough and went to a lunch break. And I ended up in one of those positions where one of those tools I bought last winter that I said, I'll never need this for anything, came in super handy because I was able to come in here, seat that O-ring or gasket, whatever you want to call it, up in the cavity on the housing and get this snugged up. So we should be good to go for another 500 hours. For some reason, the fuel filter and the oil filters on this sprayer are super easy to access. One of the hydraulic filters is easy to access, yet this third one or second one, the big one, is a real pain in the butt. And I got drenched in hydraulic oil, so when I go in for lunch real quick, I'll make sure and take my clothes off before I go inside. AR370, new oil filter, new oil in it. We just need to check the filters and I'm gonna vacuum out the cab and it'll be off. I'm not gonna grease these until later once we get going. The ILS on these 8Rs is like a 300 or 400 hour grease interval and I greased it multiple times last fall, so it should be good. Sprayer, just gotta do the drive hubs after lunch and then we'll bring the other two tractors over and get started on them. Last year I just dumped the 5-gallon bucket of high dollar oil straight into this little squirt bottle to get it in these hubs, and I made a mess every time. So we're adding an extra step for the sake of sanitation. This is a real high-tech job. You drain it out the bottom, you usually open one of them up for airflow, and when you're ready to fill, you open the top one, plug the bottom one, and then squirt oil in it until it's coming out the side. A sight glass would be nice.
Running out, Andy.
Is it? Had to add about 4 gallons of high guard to the reservoir because we spilled a little bit adding the filter and the hydraulic oil was low anyways. After seeing 3 tractors come and go next to it in the shop bay here, the sprayer is finally ready to go back to storage for a week, a day, a month, I don't know. The only thing left to do on this machine is grease the boom and fuel her up. She's ready to spray. I still have my nozzle bodies on from last year. I don't know if that's good or bad. I didn't take them off. I don't know how we're gonna park everything back, so I'll just put this out of the way for now. It would also be nice for the guy who operates this if I put new sight tubes in on the tank and the rinse tank so I can actually see how much product's in there. If you're keeping track of everything and doing good math in your head, which I normally don't, you always kind of know what you have. It's just nice to have a visual indicator occasionally. Last but not least, to service the 9620R. If it was not already the end of the day, it'd be a great time to get the planters out because everything else is out. I don't think we're gonna get to that today, and maybe not tomorrow either. We may not have the cleanest equipment. We're not even close to having the cleanest equipment. We do our best to maintain the outside and the powertrain of what we're running. We're certainly far from perfect, however, our equipment is at least maintained as good as it can be within our own knowledge and reason. Preventative maintenance, changing oils, changing filters. We try to stay on top of that just because we want the equipment to last a long time for us, and on the off chance we decide to trade it, we don't want to trade off a lemon. We want whoever gets used equipment to know that it's taken care of. So we do our best to try to upkeep everything. Again, we don't have the cleanest stuff. You're not going to see our tractors on any magazines. You can sleep peacefully knowing that we do occasionally change the oil, sometimes. Maybe once every 5 years. I'm just kidding. 5 tractors serviced in one day is pretty good work for a bunch of part-timers. Can't promise that any of them were done correctly, but we think they're not. We've wrapped up our work for the day and I'm rather impressed with our throughput. Usually it takes us 2 days to get all this stuff serviced. For some reason today we got a lot done. It was fairly nice outside, 57 degrees. This is the forecast we're looking at right now. Rains Tuesday through Friday. My phone says 1 inch total. That's a nice amount of rain, not too little, not too much. At this point, you could almost use some rain to keep you out of the field from doing anything irrational. What I'm keeping an eye on is the chance that this rain underperforms and we get 1/2 inch, let's say, and then it warms up and is windy at the tail end of the 7 to 10 day forecast, because that is a recipe for us to get some field work done. That's why we're getting stuff out right now, getting it serviced. We have a few other things on our to-do list. Depending on what we feel motivated to do and what's most important, we will have a direction to go. I just can't tell you what direction it is. I'm going to take off, though. I'll check in with you guys tomorrow. After servicing equipment all day yesterday, I felt pretty good about what we'd had done and the fact that I didn't check my phone once because I was actually busy enough to not get distracted and look down at my cell phone. Unfortunately, when I got inside, I read the news about Trump announcing some tariffs on ag imports, and then, of course, the further development or reinstation of the retaliatory tariffs from Canada and Mexico, and now we're putting more agriculture tariffs on China, or they're tariffing us. What a mess we have here. Regardless of the outcome of this, if you just look at face value, it has already had a pretty significant impact on the stock market, which is somewhat irrelevant. More important to this channel, it's already had a very negative note on our grain prices. Just in the last 2 days alone, so this morning and then yesterday during the trading session, grains are down about 4 to 5%. We were already kind of coming back down off of the highs we set in January to early February. I thought we had a little bit of upside momentum, and I still think the fundamentals and the technicals of the grain market are strong. The sentiment of the whole tariff war, trade war deal is just horrible for the market overall. Grain prices go down. In the short term, I think farmers lose, consumers probably lose. The financials were already tight on a lot of farms. I mean, we're pretty steady here just because we're conservative. We have a good land base. Other people, especially in less productive areas, are not looking very good moving forward. So I don't know what the future holds. Hope everyone can hold on as the wind blows. And ironically, the wind's blowing here literally today. We're gonna go pick up some rocks where we had some tile put in and they drug up big rocks with a trencher. Chris is driving the loader and Dad and I are gonna be on the ground crew. The geese beat us here, of course. Are these arrowheads or just rocks? There's a lot of weird shapes out in this field. There's a small portion of our work this morning. The big rocks Chris took in the loader bucket. Moving them over here to storage where they'll sit. The running joke in the family when you're out picking up rocks is to ask each other if you've got them all. The funny part about picking up rocks, if you have any rocky farms, and we have a few, is that you never get them all. We leave the small ones out there because, as my Uncle Chris has always said, they're still growing. We want to give them a chance to have a fair fight. We don't really actually have to pick up as many rocks as we used to. A lot of them on top we've gotten over the years, the decades. That's why you can see our Harvestor silo pads are covered in rocks that either I've picked up with my sisters or Dad and his brothers, or even my grandparents. I don't know, those rocks have been there for a while. It still doesn't really matter how many you pick up. There's always more coming to the top with every freeze and thaw. The wind is really picked up outside if you can't hear it behind me. The rain's supposed to be moving in, yet they keep reducing the amount in the forecast, so it's making field work more probable, especially if it doesn't rain very much. If we get a half-inch total with the temperatures they're calling for in the next 7 to 10 days, we could be looking at doing some minimal field work. We're kind of in a similar position to last year where subsoil moisture is very low. If you remember my conversations this time last year, we were afraid to do some field work that was needed because we didn't want to burn off moisture in the topsoil. What I've heard from tile contractors, guys doing excavating work, is that below that top couple inches of wet dirt on the topsoil, you get into the subsoil, it's dry. There's no moisture down there. So we will take rains. It's not really dire straits because, as we saw last year, it can start raining and refill that soil profile very quick. I'm gonna go take a rip out here on the side-by-side, see how our fields are looking, maybe if we can get some field work done prior to the rain, if the rain even shows up. I don't know. Apologize about the wind though. That's actually pretty dry. Look at that. I saw an anhydrous wagon go by earlier, so some people are doing some spring NH3 right now. If you've got fields that are naturally pretty dry, you could definitely do some field work. These spots where the tile plow ran may not even need work twice. The big chunks turned into a powder over the winter. The freeze and thaws we got, it looks like someone ran a mulcher through here. That's amazing. I can't make up my mind on this rain. We're this blue dot here, and it's kind of skirted around us so far. The tail end of this is what they're calling for this evening. 5 o'clock maybe. Could be a big one, could be a small one. I guess we'll know in 4 or 5 hours. A few more hours have passed and it is now late afternoon. The rain is finally moving in for whatever amount it adds up to. I couldn't tell you. I think Dad knew I was getting the itch to get a field cultivator out because he forced me to accompany him in picking up another truckload of rocks this afternoon. It's not the most exciting work. It really doesn't seem that flashy when you're doing it, but if it can amount to saving a few $1,000s in repair parts, whether on a planter, field cultivator, combine, you name it, it's worth the time to do it. We are fortunate enough that 80% of our fields don't have any rocks at all, other than big ones in the subsoil that you don't really come across that often. That other 20% though has enough rocks to keep you busy for seemingly months at a time. It's been a good couple of years since we've had a big session of picking up rocks, so it was needed. Rain's moving in. I think we're done for the day though. Rain's moving in and we've worn ourselves out. We've had our new round of chicks, or chicklings as Lenny was calling them the other day, for probably 5 or 6 days now. I give them fresh food and water every couple days, and then maybe once a week I'll change out their bedding. Anyways, I won't bore you with any more of that or what else is going on the farm in this video. You can hear the rain trickling, so we're gonna shut her down. Appreciate you all tuning in. Sure hope to see you in the next one. Have a great day, everyone. Peace!